Back in the early 2000s, Cadillac released the CTS, and this was the first time an American luxury brand could ever be used in the same sentence as BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz. Fast forward to 2020, and Cadillac likes to reinvent itself every couple of years, and now they have this, the CT5. Not a direct replacement for the CTS. It is in fact a little bit bigger than the outgoing ATS, but a little smaller than the CTS. That's going to give Cadillac an interesting tweener option between something like a BMW 3 Series and a BMW 5 Series. This car is going to require a lot of explaining, so let's go see what the Cadillac CT5 is all about. So let's take a walk around the Cadillac CT5, where I do like the design language quite a bit. We've got the big Cadillac shield up front. We've got this new thing that Cadillac sedans are doing where the LED running light is sort of vertically integrated. Here on the CT5, it is split with a little bit of body color. On the smaller CT4, which is more of like an Audi A3 competitor, they are connected. I like this a little better. The body color that we have here is called Garnet Metallic. It's a deep red. It's almost like a maroon sparkly color. I like the CT5 a little bit better in brighter colors. Around the side profile, it gets a little bit more generic, although we do have the Cadillac shield to denote that this is a Cadillac. We only have 18-inch silver wheels here that I think look a little basic on a $60,000 car. You can get larger 19s and 20-inch wheels, although they do cost a lot extra. The one thing that I do think is pretty cool is this large C-pillar that kind of is really raked, almost like a coupe, although that does hurt headroom. It almost makes this car look like a fastback. We have a very short rear deck lid, giving this car almost sports car proportions back here. We do have all-wheel drive on this model. That's going to hurt fuel economy just a bit. This is not the most fuel-efficient vehicle, and it is going to hurt the 0 to 60 time. 5.1 seconds to 60 in this model, 4.9 in the rear-wheel drive model. And we do have the upgraded engine, which is why we have this 550T logo. The 4-cylinder entry-level model gets a 350T logo. Now I'm going to give you a second for why a 3-liter engine is called 550T. Nope, you're wrong. It's the Newton meters of torque that the engine produces. Instead of doing something simple, Cadillac decided, instead of based on engine displacement, making this a 3.0T, or maybe doing it on engine torque, it would be 400T. They decided to base it on engine torque, but in Newton meters, which is how you measure it globally. But there's a problem with that. This engine has 400 pound-feet of torque, and if you do that conversion to Newton meters, it should be 542T, not 550T, but they said 550T just sounds better. Now, what's very interesting about this whole nomenclature debacle is that the V model gets a little bit more torque, 405, which is a nice even 550T, but you don't get this badge on the V, you just get a little V logo here. So that's a little bit of a mess. Let's see if Cadillac has made a little bit of a better job on the interior. So now that we've checked out the outside of the CTS, where I think Cadillac is off to a pretty strong start, let's hop on the interior and see if Cadillac has made any improvements to the cabin. That was always a major sticking point with the ATS and CTS. Their interiors were nowhere near on par with the Germans. And from first impressions, I would say that this cabin is much brighter and cheerier than what you'd get in, say, like a BMW or an Audi. It is quite nice and bright in here. Now, that being said, I think they've used a little bit too many materials in here, and let me tell you what I'm on about. We've got this really nice carbon fiber. I think that's pretty interesting considering that this isn't a V, this isn't a performance model at all, but we've got carbon fiber trim. That's fine, I do like that, but then we've got this silver finish around these buttons and around this trim and around this trim, okay? Then we have this flat plastic here. Then we have a different silver here on the Bose speakers, which do look really nice, although I don't love the way they sound. Then we've got this sort of sparkly black plastic here. Then we've got leather with like orange stitching, and then we've got the actual sort of brown leather of the seats, and then we've got the black leather here on the dash. It's just a lot going on, and there are some weird angles where the leather kind of like comes together here on the dash. So just a few weird points there in terms of materials. And then we get into the shifter, which is an exact clone of what BMW uses in their cars. You've got like the little digital lockout, you've got the push button for park here, you've got tip over into reverse, push it into park to stop it. It's exactly what BMW uses, except Cadillac has made it look so aesthetically unpleasing. It's just this big fat knob that I can't get my hand around it. It's just a really ugly looking design. I don't know who came up with that shifter. I don't love the way that looks, but in terms of interior ergonomics, I think this cabin is actually laid out really well. Here's why. We've got our cup holders here. They live here under this leather pouch. The cup holders themselves actually suck because they're really shallow and they don't have any grabbers, so your bottles just kind of roll around here. That's not great, but what we do have that's really nice is a large storage area up in front of that where you can put your phone. That also doubles as a wireless charger. You've got a little bit more storage over here as well. There's also a secondary slot for your phone kind of built into the center console here. You can kind of leave it right here, and there's wiring for the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay built in there, so you can wire that cable through this little zone, so you can have your phone kind of standing up right there perfectly with quick and easy access to it. That is a really clever design on Cadillac's part, and I love the infotainment. This is the same infotainment you get on a lot of Chevys and other GM vehicles, but it's larger here, 10 inches as standard. It looks fantastic. You might have seen earlier, if I push the camera button, I get the wonderful 360 view camera with a bunch of different angles. So if you curb a wheel or hit a bump stop in this car, it is your fault. You're just a bad driver, because these are some of the best cameras you'll get in any car. We've got a nice home button here that takes you back to your home menu here, or you can have this menu, which kind of shows all of your information here, like a little map, climate control, all of that stuff. In addition to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, we also have Amazon Alexa. I love this integration of GM's. You don't need to have a separate app on your phone, but Alexa will still run, and it does run the full Alexa suite like you would get in your house. I'm going to show you that now. Alexa, tell me the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
In Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Chancellor Palpatine tells Anakin Skywalker the tragic story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, whose power was so great that his only fear was losing it. Despite...
Okay, enough of that, but you get the idea. Alexa, you know, she can handle all of your voice controls, you know, song requests, all of that. Really cool feature, really good technology on the part of GM, although I will say that this particular CT5 does not have Cadillac's flagship technology, Super Cruise, which allows you to go hands-free driving on the highway, but Cadillac says the 2021 model year will have that available. And the other thing I'm not so fond of is these gauges are definitely a lot better than you used to get on Cadillac models. They still look a little plain to me, although at least they don't look like they came out of a rental car like last time. Maybe some digital gauges, Cadillac would clean up the interior a little bit. And if you don't love controlling this touchscreen here, you have a bunch of other different ways to control it. You have this knob here, which kind of works as like a scroll knob, and you can click it as well. You've got one volume here, you've got volume on the steering wheel, and then you've got another volume knob down here. And then you also have like a BMW style iDrive controller, although it doesn't go up, down, left, right. It only scrolls, which is a little weird. And you've got sort of home buttons around that and a volume knob here, sort of like how Audi does it, but instead of kicking it left or right, they've put you know, little buttons for fast forward and rewind, so that's a little weird. We've got our drive modes here, Tour, Sport, Snow, Ice, and then like a custom mode, and I don't love the placement of that either. So a little bit of a mixed bag on the interior. The seats are comfortable enough, they're very soft. I wish they hugged you in a little better, and they do have massage, but it's not a very good massage. It only uses the lumbar support, so it's not nearly as good as what you get in a Volvo. We've also got GM's amazing camera mirror. I love that piece of technology. You flip it up, that becomes a mirror with a very wide view. And we've got some cool sunroofs here. We've got a sunroof in the front and a sunroof in the back, so that's pretty interesting as well. And while I'm speaking of the back, let's go ahead and see what the legroom's like back there. So now that we've checked out the front seat, let's go ahead and check out the back, but I wanted to point out a few key things here on the side. These aren't actual door handles. You don't pull them like a traditional door handle. There's a button on the inside that you push to open, and to lock it, you've actually got this little Cadillac emblem cut out here. That's pretty interesting as well. Coming to the back, the CT5 actually rides on a longer wheelbase than the CTS, which was considered a midsize, but it is shorter overall. Now, the reason why Cadillac has chosen to make the CT5 sort of an in-betweener type of car is for legroom. The legroom back here, even though my seat is really far back, is fantastic. I've got just under 38 inches of legroom back here, which is more than you get in the C-Class, which is already one of the largest vehicles in the compact class. I've got rear vents back here. I've got a USB-C port as well. So again, really great legroom, but what I will say, they've gone and squandered all of that legroom with terrible headroom because of that low sloping roof line, and the seat back is just a little bit firm. Now, Cadillac has done a nice job utilizing this car's long wheelbase for the back seat, but that hasn't left all that much for the trunk. We only have 11.9 cubic feet back here, which is smaller than a lot of rivals. That's because we have a very low roof and it's very narrow because of this car's rear-wheel drive architecture with all-wheel drive. We do have a little bit more storage under there for small items, and there is a rear pass-through, but as you can see, it is very small, not a huge cutout there to get large objects. So if you have anything really big, they might not fit in this car. And then another small note that I wanted to mention in terms of quality is, if you look up here on the roof, you've got these sort of subwoofers here, and you can see just kind of exposed wires, which is just a little bit tacky on a car costing as much as the CT5 does. So far, the CT5 has been a little bit of a mixed bag, although I do seem to like it so far, but let's see how it fares out on the road, because these GM sedans from Cadillac have had a good reputation for how they drive. Now, the base engine in this car is a 2-liter 4-cylinder, pretty much like any other luxury car in the market. That only has 237 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, so not huge numbers on that base engine, but Cadillac has sent me the larger 3-liter V6, which is twin turbocharged. So let's see how that fares. So what I'm gonna do to test that out is take the car out of its Tour mode, which is sort of the normal mode, and put it into sport mode. I'm gonna also turn off the traction control for good measure, but we have the all-wheel drive drivetrain. This car is rear-wheel drive, but you can also get it with all-wheel drive, that being a rear-biased all-wheel drive system. So let's see how it gets off the line. Let's do a little bit of a brake stand. Whoa! Whoa! I did not expect that. Whoa, that got off the line in a hurry. Whew. So that was a twin turbo V6 with 335 horsepower, which is pretty good for this segment. Now, the number that's really good is 400. That's the number of pound-feet of torque that this engine has. That's the number that's really important here. What that number means is that you can pass people easily and without effort in this car. Basically, you just tap the throttle, even without a downshift, this car will just surge past traffic. I really love that pound-feet of torque number, although I showed you that silly badge out in the back that says 550T. That's supposed to be the Newton meters of torque. Actually, it's 542 Cadillac if you convert 400 into Newton meters. You can also get a slightly more powerful version of this engine if you get the CT5V, which is also available in rear or all-wheel drive. Now, remember, the V has not kept what it used to be. The old CTS-V was like a 640 horsepower monster. This one only gets a slight power boost over this engine. So instead of 335 horsepower, you get 360, and you get a slight boost in the torque to 405, which actually makes it 550 Newton meters, just so you know. And a 10-speed automatic is the only transmission option in this car, and it is a good one. If you go ahead and floor it, it is going to activate a performance shift logic. Basically, what that's going to do is it's going to keep it in lower gears for a set period of time until it realizes that you aren't driving sporty anymore. And this transmission just shifts with such a ferocity. I'm going to go ahead and floor it now. Womp, womp. Oh my gosh, so it says performance shift active. You can hear how quickly those gear changes are taken care of. This 10-speed is one of the best automatic transmissions I've ever driven in this car. It pairs so well with this twin turbo V6 engine. I hope it's coming along on my microphone how good this engine sounds. Swap, swap, swap. It's just such a good sound. I'm gonna do another launch because I absolutely love how this engine performs. Let's go ahead and set it up again. I just gotta do a launch again. This thing is just so fun. Here we go. Wow. Yeah, it's quick. And this is GM's Alpha 2 platform. So that's an evolution of the original Alpha platform that underpinned the old ATS, the CTS, and even the Chevrolet Camaro. And all of those cars were really nice to drive. We've got all of the goodies that you would want out of a nice sports sedans. You've got McPherson front suspension. You've got 5-link independent rear at the back, meaning that this car handles quite well. It's not quite as sharp as the last Alpha car I drove, which was the ATS V. This one is, of course, not a V model, not a sport model. This is just a luxury model, so you get plenty of lean through the corners, but the steering gives you a nice amount of feedback. It's really nicely weighted, and the front and the rear ends just talk to each other so well. This car is so communicative to the driver for a larger vehicle like this and oh boy, you can get the tail out. Even though this is an all-wheel drive car, you can almost rip a burnout or a donut in this car. Don't worry, I've tested that for you, so you don't have to get in trouble trying to do that yourself. But I love taking this car quick through the corners. It does lean in quite a lot. We don't have GM's mag ride suspension on this model, but I feel like I am completely stable as I chuck this thing through the corners. It definitely leans, but that helps you with comfort. This car is very comfortable. If I now take it out of sport mode and go back into tour mode, it becomes quiet and comfortable. It has a cylinder deactivation, which a lot of GM cars do, so it'll shut down from a V6 to a V4. It still isn't very efficient. I will say this engine is a lot of things. It sounds good, it's a powerhouse, it's a torque monster, but fuel efficient, it is not. With all-wheel drive, you're going to be getting about 18 mpg in the city, 25 on the highway, and 21 combined on this trip so far. I've been averaging about 15 miles per gallon, although I have been driving like a hooligan, so maybe we shouldn't count my fuel economy. So yeah, the CT5 is a little bit of a mixed bag on the interior, but in terms of driving, I really enjoy piloting this car. It is a very nice continuation, and I cannot wait to drive the upcoming Blackwing model, which is going to stick the old CTS-V's 6.2 liter supercharged V8 with 640 horsepower up front. That's going to be incredible, and you're going to be able to get that car with a manual. I really can't wait. So that was the 2020 Cadillac CT5. Pricing for the 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive model starts at just under 38 grand, but from what I've heard about that engine, you're gonna wanna step up to the V6. Now with all-wheel drive, as we have it equipped, that's the premium luxury trim V6 all-wheel drive, you're gonna pay just under 50 grand, but we have a big package on this car that's gonna bump the price up to about $60,000. Now, that may seem like a lot, and I don't know if Cadillac has quite justified a 60 grand price to me, but Cadillac usually prices their cars to sell and to be discounted, so you may end up paying a lot less than that. And when you look at the BMW M340i and the Mercedes C43 AMG, this is a lot cheaper than those options, including the Audi S4, which also has all-wheel drive like this car. Now you can get the V version of this car to get a little sportier with a little more power, and it's really not that much more expensive, only about $2,000 more expensive, and you can get that with all-wheel drive as well. Now I think Cadillac has fixed a lot of the big problems with the CTS and ATS. They've made some major improvements on the interior. It still drives really well, and I think this time around the technology is super strong and compelling, making this a really fabulous option in the compact segment. And because Cadillac has positioned the CT5 specifically as a tweener, that being bigger than a 3 Series but bigger than a 5 Series, it should be an interesting option for somebody who wants a little more size but not the massive size of a midsize with that crazy midsize price. We really hope you've enjoyed this video on the 2020 Cadillac CT5. For more information, we've included a link in the description to take you over to CarBuzz.com for more information about this car. And if you really enjoyed the video, it would help us out a lot if you liked and subscribed and hit the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.